Alright, took a break over the weekend. Time to get back to it. I finished all the tutorial it was at, so gotta find a new one. And the last one I finished had what 1.6 million vertices and stuff like that. So I think I need to work on topology and making it cleaner. So I'm gonna watch this video here. I did watch a few minutes of it, and it does seem to be pretty good. Some things I want to test out myself though, which is why I've got my own blender up. And there's a few things that didn't make sense at the start, but I'll show you what I mean when we're watching it.
Hey everyone, today we're going to cover 5 tips for better understanding topology in any 3D software. I'll be using Maya for this demo, but the concepts and workflows discussed here can be applied to any 3D software. I've narrowed down these tips after many years of professionally modeling and teaching students over the years to improve their understanding of topology. If you found these tips helpful, have any of your own tips that could help people, or want me to cover topology in greater detail, let me know down in the comments below. As always, a like and subscribe is always appreciated as I continue to grow the content of this channel. So with that, let's get started. Alright, so here we are in Maya, and I'm going to start with the very first tip. And the first tip is localizing topology. And what I mean by localizing topology is having the ability to add topology within your model without spreading topology and edge flow in areas that you don't want. For example, if I go ahead and take a look at this hammer boy that I modeled in a previous tutorial, and I want to add geometry here for the hands, the last thing that I'd want to do is to jump over to multi-cut and just add in edge loops here that are now going to run the length of the model, right? And you can see how this gives me unintended edges that run all the way around the model. I definitely don't want that. So what I want to do is, let me undo that, jump back to this plane here, and I can show you kind of at a simpler point of view. You can see that I have one face here that's being cut and split into 2 faces, and then it's then being split into even more faces here. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we started with 1 and now we have 4. You can see that I can combine that with different techniques here, where I start with 1 face, end up with 2, and then split that to have 4 here. And then now I can even get almost 6 faces here, right? And so this is just allowing me to add topology strategically, right? And localizing it in areas that I only need it. Now, how would I do this? If I go ahead and create a cube here, we can go ahead and take a look. So I'll go ahead and scale this cube up and zoom in. And we'll go ahead and just do a Control E for extrude, and then do an offset, bring this in, and then hit G to repeat last.
And
then extrude that out. Now, again, if I wanted to now extrude some fingers on here, and I go ahead and do the multi-cut, we can see what happens if I just start adding in a bunch of edges that are now routing throughout the rest of the model. So instead what I can do is I'll control middle click, add that in the middle, and control middle click again. Now, one thing that you can do, there's a couple ways of doing this. You can add control middle click a few times here.
so this is the part here that I find a bit weird. So he's adding a loop cut here. So that loop cut there, a loop there, and then he's doing a loop cut on this side, right?
Like so, or
Anyway.
I'll just go ahead and left click a couple of times. Now what we can do here is I can go ahead now and move these faces. And I can do that by entering the multi-cut tool. So if I grab the multi-cut tool, I can start at one corner and cut about in the middle, and then start at the other corner and cut at the middle here. Like so. Then I have this. Now of course I'd want to just kind of meet these or connect these two. Then I want to remove these edges here, like so. Now we have these, or this face loop running around, and that allows me.
Yeah, you do, but it's just while he was doing that, I deleted the face of one, so that I could do the loop cut before going around the thing there, and I only got it on the part I wanted. So yeah, obviously there's a bit here that I can just salvage, but it
To
was
be able
it's
to
like
go
extra
through and delete
steps.
these edges. Now I want to make sure to do the same thing on the bottom, but for right now, I'm simply just going to delete these faces so it doesn't loop all the way around for the
Yeah.
simplicity of this demonstration. So I'll go ahead and select these edges and then remove.
So let me go back here again. So he's doing it to remove topology from this one, I think. So
Now, of course, I'd want to just kind of meet the
you did a loop cut. These neck to here is okay. So
these or connect these two. Then I want to remove these edges here, like so.
okay.
Now we have these or this face loop running around, and that allows me to be able to go through and delete these edges. Now I want to make sure to do the same thing on the bottom, but for right now, I'm simply just going to delete these faces so it doesn't loop all the way around for the simple.
Yeah. Okay. So he wants to. You see the problem is it doesn't come through the next tool. Is there like no way to do it? So he's damn it. He wants to do that and then do that, so it goes away around. So you can click. So you can click this. I'll click. Oh yeah. So you delete dissolve. That damn it, stop the thing there, and then you click it. Uh, so he's doing. Basically, you're removing the connected line of the loop tool of the loop cut to be able to remove the rest of it.
Simplicity of this demonstration. So I'll
Okay,
go ahead
let's
and
start.
select these edges and then remove. And then now you can see that I have these faces here, without adding all that extra geometry in on the.
Yeah, but deleting the face and then doing the loop cut, or doing the loop cut and then deleting the face, or dissolving the edge in the face would allow you to select the loop cut anyway. So I don't really understand why you're adding these in.
Rest of the mesh. And you can combine that with techniques again. If I go ahead and just kind of shift move this to extrude, and if you wanted to even add even more, you could grab your multi-cut tool again, and I can middle mouse cut that, and then you can do something like this where we call these I call these kind of kites or diamonds, like so. And now I can go ahead and start to add in more geometry or edges here, right? So like so. Now, what this is going to do is allow me to have a bunch of edges or a bunch of faces here without, again, taking it throughout the rest of the mesh. Now, what this is going to do, rest of the mesh, and you can combine that with techniques again. If I go ahead and just kind of shift move this to extrude, and if you wanted to even add even more, you could grab your multi-cut tool again, and I can middle mouse cut that. And then you can do something like this where we call these, I call these kind of kites or diamonds, like so. And now I can go ahead and start to add in more geometry.
So if you wanted to do that, and there's one right here, right? Okay, so we didn't do the limb sides there, so it's screwed up, right? So I didn't do those sides. So let's just say I dissolve edge, and then I'll click this, and it goes right the whole way around here, and because I connected there we go, and like dissolve edges. Why are we doing all this extra topology? What's the point of it? More detail? Is that what it is?
Or edges here, right? So like so.
Uh-huh.
Now, what this is going to do is allow me to have a bunch of edges or a bunch of faces here without, again, taking it throughout the rest of the mesh. And then now, even though you can see that I have these triangles here, I can simply remove this middle triangle here and create the kite stance. So you can see that I have this kite shape here. Take it and terminate at the corner of that face, or a bunch of faces here without, again, taking it throughout the rest of the mesh. And then now, even though you can see that I have these triangles here, I can simply remove this middle triangle here and create the kite shape that I was talking about. And then now I go ahead and just kind of move that, and then there we go. And again, you'll see this being used all over the place. I use these all the time for hands. So you can see that I have this kite shape here. That's just allowing me to add in some extra geometry.
Right. So it is just that word. Okay. But I don't like using a knife tool because, well, he's using Maya, so it is a bit different. Maybe Blender's got an equivalent, but I just don't know it yet. But yeah, it's not even. I don't like it not being even. What the hell is that? But yeah, it's just that like
For the fingers,
I guess.
without having to go through and add it throughout the rest of the glove or the rest of the model. You'll see me use that here as well on the back of the model, where I start to use this inner part, this face loop, to be able to add in some more geometry. And again, kind of the last thing here is if I go here now, you can go ahead and move this edge like so. And you can kind of just manually do it where I multi-cut this, and go ahead and multi-cut and kind of add in a point here. That real quick. And you can just manually cut in to get these loops too. So that's another way of kind of doing the same thing. So I do this all the time, like so, and then I can terminate it at this edge. And again, you get this nice face loop running all the way around. So being able to understand this, how to kind of start with one and split your edges.
Actually, I'll take back what I said there. If I had did the loop cuts first, had them like be in the center. So if I did the middle one, right, and then I did the next one that was in the center, and then I could do it for both sides, and I could do another loop cut again in the center, and then erase them using the fox tail. That would give me even spacing, and then I could just, as you saw there, click the vertices, and then the, what was it? Bridge, connect vertices past this to make it connected to it, and then delete the edges connected to the loop cut, and then that will allow me to hold hold alt and click the loop cut, and then delete it after removing the connected face edge. Sorry. I'm trying to get me an understanding of it. Probably not what he's intended, but that's what I understand.
And get more, or split your faces and get more edges to add that topology. This is what I mean by localizing topology. So using this technique is something that I use all the time. Using these kite quads is something that I use all over my models. The next tip is how to clean up n-gons and triangles. A lot of times you'll be splitting and cutting faces and cutting some edges, and you'll get to a point where you're kind of running along and you have to diagonally cut across, and then you're left with a triangle and an n-gon. So I get an n-gon, which is a 5-sided face. Now, we want to make sure, at least for organic modeling and most of hard surface modeling, we want to typically end up with what's called just quads or 4-sided polygons. You see that I have this, which is pretty complex, but all of these complex cuts and edges here are quads, and they're 4-sided, all right? So when we get to this instance, when we're cutting across edges and faces, we can simply use this technique where we split this in half. And what I mean by that is if I go ahead and jump into the multi-cut tool, I can just click on the middle part of the edge here and take it and terminate at the corner of that face, which gives me now this. I know this might seem very simple, but I'm telling you, when you're going through and modeling and cutting and splitting.
You know, while he was talking about that, I was trying to figure out how the hell you would turn, the pentagon n-gon into a quad, and it just went over my head. I didn't think it was going to be as simple as a single cut down the middle. But
Now you've just created this nice clean face loop that's running all over the model, which is exactly what you want. And it avoids a triangle and n-gon, which both of those combined is going to give a lot of smoothing artifacts. So by smoothing, I mean by holding shift right click and going to mesh smooth or smooth. And so you can see you get these nice even quads. Without that, before, if I go ahead and actually just delete this and go to the object mode and go ahead and smooth, you'll see it's going to try to do its best here, but it's giving us a little bit more uneven of a subdivision.
I never understood why they didn't want n-gons or why they always wanted quads. I even heard some people saying they prefer triangles and not quads. But now I understand why. It's because the actual smoothing is done in quads.
Now, so it's always going to subdivide its best to try to end up with quads, but if the subdivision algorithm has to account for a lot of triangles and n-gons, that's what's going to give you artifacts. All right. So for example, if I go ahead and pull open or pull up here this sphere, and I bring this over and I'm going to scale it up, and I can go ahead and give myself a little bit more subdivisions, maybe something like 32, and this is where you can apply this technique. If I go ahead and start multi-cutting, now instead of just grabbing edges like this that are already on existing edges and working with that, well, if I wanted to do something more organic, I certainly can. So I'll go ahead and grab my multi-cut tool and just start cutting, and then now I can start cutting across edges like so.
And gone. I see it.
And you get something like this. Now again, you're going to be left with these triangles and n-gons like so. So in order to easily fix that, we can go ahead and just split this in half and split this top one in half like so. And there you go. We can kind of control shift slide on the edge. And then what we can get is selecting this edge now. Obviously, I'm not going to worry about where this ends up, but this is fine. And then I can hold shift right click and do a bevel edge. So you get something like this. Now, of course, we see how this ends up. You can easily fix that by going into multi-cut and using that technique that I showed on tip 1. So now if I go ahead and just kind of cut this across like so, and then I cut it and meet it at these corners here, there you go. You get these nice quads here, which is exactly what we want. And then you can terminate it here like so. And this is just one way to do it, right? So here's just another way of cutting it, which is just a few more clicks, but it's all the same at the end of the day. Okay, and then we get this nice face loop here that's running all the way across our model. So I can click here and grab these. And then I can do a Control E for extrude and move these in. And G again, just to give myself a little bit of a holding line. And I'm just showing an example of how to just kind of cut in on an organic surface. And there you go. So now you can see that cut in pretty well. And I'm able to add in these nice corners and clean those up and still maintain quads by splitting that that triangle and that n-gon. All right. The next tip I'm going to recommend is edge flow and keeping an even distribution of edges. If we take a look at the model here, As an example, you can see that this character model that I've created has a nice, clean, even distribution of edges, and that every edge that's in here is helping the form. Okay, and what do I mean by that? If I actually go and select this mesh and apply or hold right click, just simple right click, don't hold shift or anything, and assign a new material, I'm going to assign what's called a surface shader. Now I like to use my surface shaders because it just lets me know where my edges are being most impactful and if I have any dead edges, and it just allows you to look at the silhouette of the model and focus on the form. If you notice, you have what's called dead edges. So for example, if I take this and delete these, you can see now I just have straight edges here. And then if I multi-cut and maybe add in a couple of cuts, now look at the difference, right? Look at the difference between this, which is super flat, which is again kind of those dead edges that I was talking about, right? So if we go ahead and maybe duplicate this and move this up like so, and I'll remove these edges. And you have to be careful, right? Because sometimes you're just going in and cutting and adding things, but not adding to the form. That's where you run into issues like this, all right? And then I can do assign a new material and assign the...
Basically, if you don't notice a difference, then don't do it. Well, if you notice a difference, undo it. Because you won't notice the difference until you do it. It's stupid, I know, but I understand what he's trying to say. I'm probably gonna fall victim to that a lot because I add too much detail to my stuff even though I'm still new and I don't understand what the hell I'm doing. I'm still doing stuff for the hell of it.
Surface shader, right? And you can see that here I'm getting more form out of my edges here versus here, which is a complete straight line. It's very subtle, but these are the things that I'm looking for as I'm going through and working on my models, right? And so you can see if I do the same thing here, our arms now are super straight, right? And very tubular, all right? So you definitely want to keep that in mind, an even distribution of edges and adding edges as you go, right? So I can take a look now and kind of see, you know, this here with this tip, right? So now I have the next tip, which is going to be holding edges and face loops.
Wait. I just kind of realized something there. So
see that here I'm getting more form out of my edges here versus here, which is a complete straight.
oh yeah, okay. So instead of having it evenly spread out, so it looks exactly the same, exactly as smooth, he's got them kind of closer at one end, so it's where what looks like where the elbow's supposed to be. It's still straight, but it looks like it suddenly becomes a bit smoother towards the elbow. So I think it's in there.
Line. It's very subtle, but these are the things that I'm looking for as I'm going through and working on my models, right? And so you can see if I do the same thing here, our arms now are super straight, right? And very tubular, all right?
Yep.
So you definitely want to keep that in mind, an even distribution of edges and adding edges as you go, right? So I can take a look now and kind of see, you know, this here with this tip, right? So now I have the next tip, which is going to be holding edges and face loops. So edge flow here, you can see is really important, and especially when it comes to holding the form. You can see I have this fairly organic looking axe shape, and I have, just like the last tip, a good, you know, even distribution. So that's being applied here as well. And then I'm having these holding lines that's being applied to my models. A lot of times I'll see people, you know, students and whatnot create models and they won't add in these edges to hold form. So you always want to make sure to add in those good holding lines on your models. In the simplest form, I can go...
It's actually something I did quite early. I love adding crease edges and bevels and just the end because it gives where the mesh or yeah, it'll be the mesh basically changes a lot more detail to stand out because it just says if you don't add any bits at the corners and stuff like that, it just looks like all of a sudden it's just a cliff. You know what I mean? You need to add the curve. It just shouldn't suddenly happen unless it's an X. Because don't think I need this anymore if I'll open. Don't see if. Open the resources. Projects. Tutorials. It was. Can't remember what the first one was. Where the hell is it? It's at the hearse. I guess whenever I tried rigging for the first time, that's a really small thing. Almost cursed. Don't know. I was gonna say something, but I can't remember. This is the. Wonder if this is gonna be screwed up. Yeah, okay. Can't wait to see to get off. Yeah, if you look back at the ones, I can't remember. I might have to redo this one because I can't remember anything about it. This one here said the sub the first to get it nice and round. What's that? Oh yeah, it's the sprinkles. Yeah, that I just went off on one. I'm not even showing you what it is now. But where the hell is my? That was me axe. We actually had it. Alright, there's it there. Eh? Yeah. Oh, okay, finding part edit mode. Okay, like the crease edges at the end, and as it says, if I didn't learn about crease edges, which adds the sharpness here, I would have been doing the loop cut there. You see it adds. It looks like that's the part that's being sharpened. That it gets closer and closer, less sharpened towards the end, more sharpened towards that. So if we do this here, like wind it around a few. You know, you can sharpen the part here. I do really like that texture. Is it this one? Which bump is it? Yeah, it's this one. Gives you the wee hammer one there. That was a nice texture. It's actually. That could be scales, couldn't it? Could be reptile scales. Screenshot that. Anyway, back to watching the video.
Go ahead and create a cylinder here. and bring this over. And if we take a look at this, and I can give this, maybe 32, or maybe even 16, right? So we can see it kind of working more impactfully. So if I have something like this, and just right off the bat, if I go ahead and hit 3 for smooth preview, I've lost that form, right? So that's where your edge flow and holding lines are going to come into play. So if I go now into
Oh,
here,
right, okay. So, well, general don't thieves. The great. Okay, so add oscillador edit mode. Face like no from there, and then was it add modifier of subdivision surface that doesn't tear. Yep, object mode as well. I might as well shade smooth, get a wee bit smooth in there, go to edit mode again. And basically what he's doing, saying over the holding edges is, if I put this here and then I move it up here, it gives it a nice wee round at the top. And do down the bottom, down here. I remember doing this for the glass bottle thing and object mode. And do subdivision here, you get a bit more around with that. Like, bottom of glass bottle. Anything more than that. Three the most. And then you would hit apply. Edit mode. Look at all this. Quad. Very nice. Don't think a bottle needs to be that detailed, but you know. Let me see something here. Can I? No. So, click this one. Yeah, okay. Control to do that. Okay. Extrude. You want to see something here. Grab a wee bit more, give it forward. Extrude up, and then scale it a wee bit, and then extrude up. Scale it a wee no. Extrude inwards. No. Inside, sorry. Extrude downwards. Kind of a bottle. Do the P. I'm gonna do it correctly. kind of weird way to do it, but Liptil's circle. Liptil's circle. Let me see. Why am I doing this? Liptil's one of the best add-ons I've ever had someone recommend to me. Dissolve, delete this, and then repeat this one, and then Liptil circle. What the hell is that crap? Ah, fire. Okay. We deleted the edge, that edge come down. Okay, that makes sense. And then you would. Okay. Why am I going off of one? Just ignore me. Okay, so that does this, and then you can click this, and then you can extrude it down. Yeah, and crap, it's doing this. Grab that. There we go. Like it's a bottle in a weird ass way. What was it? Roughness down. Did it upside down, but you know, whatever. Why am I doing this? It's a metal one. Transmission. Clay look. We murky look. I wish I had a proper background for this one. World. Okay, that's what it was. It was a Fairmont open. Back one. You know, what the hell? Object, transform, rotation. Object, apply, rotation. Control. Rotate 180. Okay, find me up straight. There we go. And then back to the object thing, and then transmission made it C3. C3 bottles. Ah! I can't remember how. Damn it! Give it a blue color. And then transmission. Sparkly sun. There's definitely something else that I need to go back and. Maybe I'm not connected it properly. That's a,
And grab my
Video.
multi-cut tool, I can add a multi-cut here at the top and then here at the bottom. But then watch what happens. It's starting to get better, right? But I still need a little bit more. So if I'll apply a Phong here, you can see how kind of soft that's looking, right? So imagine if this was an arm or a piece on a hard surface model, we need more geometry. I always tell students, don't rely on smooth preview for your form. So meaning you need to add in geometry, and the mesh smooth that happens at the end, this really should just be kind of like if you were applying this this soften edge at the end. That's how you want to look at it. You don't want to rely on it for your form. So you can see we still need a little bit more here for the subdivision. So what I'll do now is go into face mode, select these faces here at the top and the bottom, and then I'll extrude these faces, and then I'll do an offset. So now I got these. So this is getting better. So I'm holding the form from the top and the bottom, but then I also need, now look what happened to these edges. They're coming closer together. So I'm going to need even more edges here in the middle for this to better subdivide. So now if I go ahead and just control middle click about 2 to 3 times, so I'll do it 3 times. Now look at this. You can see how much better this looks. And if I go ahead and duplicate and move this, this is the sub D model, or the subdivided one, the smooth preview. This one now is going to be the softened edge, right? So you can see that now they're much similar here in overall form versus having something where we originally started, which was, not having these holding lines and the holding edges. Now this is, again, in its simplest form, how I would apply this to a cylinder, right? So the same can be applied to more complex models here. So definitely looking for these face loops here for holding the form. We have our holding lines here, and then you'll see the kites and everything coming in. Now I did want to add in, I left this triangle here so you can get an understanding of sometimes having triangles are completely okay, especially with hard surface and flat objects. So don't worry and don't try to kill yourself to try to get all even quads. Sometimes a simple triangle will keep things just cleaner, even without having to cut in and add more geometry. All right. And so you can see another example here where if I turn on edge faces here, you can see that I'm using these kite quads all over the model here. This is kind of on on a character that I modeled not too long ago. And then we can see that we have these face loops here, these holding lines, that's just holding the overall form, right? Because without that, that's not going to hold the form as well, right? These are the subtle differences between having and not having these things. So you can see how the difference in the spread here when it comes to sub D modeling and topology. And if I re-add that, you can see now it really keeps this edge tighter here. All right. And I was actually in the middle of this one, so this one needs a little bit more holding lines, but I left it like this so you can kind of see exactly what I'm talking about here. All right. And then you can see more examples of how I use kite quads, especially when you're working with larger faces that have to come down to really, really thin faces here. So this is a Recaro C, a racing seat that I modeled for a vehicle. And you can see exactly that technique and that edge flow being put into practice here. All right. So these are the 4, and the last one, the 5th technique, is going to help you improve topology almost immediately, and it's going to be practice. practice topology. But what I mean by that is, focus on just retopologizing. All right. So what I mean is, take a look at. I just pulled this model, this head sculpt from ZBrush, and I just decimated it down and I brought it into Maya. Find some models that you've done in the past. Okay. And if you're struggling learning topology and edge flow, work and use the tool called Quadra. So what I'm going to do now is select this model, go ahead and turn it into a live surface, and then I'm going to use Quadra. Now what Quadra is going to do is allow me to start plotting points. So I can left click here 4 times, shift click, and boom, I've created a quad. So you're drawing quads on this surface. Then I can just continue to do this and then add 2. And in order to get the face, you plot the points, hold shift and left click. Then you can also hold control, left click to add, or hold tab to pull out some edges. Now you can use tab and middle mouse to pull out edge loops, or if you have an edge in here and want to get rid of it, then you can hold control shift and delete. Those are the main ones that I use, but take a look here in the modeling toolkit and you can see the keyboard mouse shortcuts, and there's immediately improved of 50% or whatever, and then apply that. And that's really going to change. Use the optimize too, which is going to really reduce the mesh here. And you want to get that by going to mesh, reduce, and then you can say like, if 50% or whatever, and then apply that. And that's really going to change the topology. And the whole purpose of just doing this is so you have a completely remeshed and re-triangulated version of your model. So that way, you're not like, trying to carry over the bad topology that you had previously. So then, yeah, those are the something like that here.
Yeah, at the start, some stuff didn't make sense. Some stuff I kind of knew a wee bit, but the topology part, the more I think about it, the more I realize just how little, probably the basic understanding, just doesn't make full sense to me. Or maybe I don't know all of the applications of the basic understanding. It's probably what's happening in this case. I will go here. Yeah, anyway. That's the tutorial. How to clean up my topology is kind of nice. I mean, if I was to do it in this one, I would do it quite a lot in this one. But I do kind of like that we bump at the top there. It's nice. But anyway, I'm learning something. That's all that matters. See you next time.